ask one thing? I know sounds like we're in high school, but I have this feeling that if we could all put our cell phones away for just a little while, we'd enjoy this more, because it's what theater is, such an immersive experience. And I think if it's possible to let go of your data for just a half an hour or so, we can kind of enter into this experience a little bit more. If you're waiting for an important call from a doctor or something, then ignore me, but if you can let go of it, it'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So, welcome to La Mama, La Mama Experimental Theater Club. This theater, La Mama, is about 56 years old. And it was started by the late director, producer, designer, composer, Ellen Stewart, who to me is the epitome of cultural diplomacy. She and her company visited 40 or 50 to 50 countries during the time of her life. She traveled all over, bringing people from all different parts of the world to this place. And I could talk more about La Mama, but I thought maybe we should introduce ourselves a little bit first. This is Jessica Litwak. Right now, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
No, you can introduce me, as long as you don't start with that same thing you always say. He always introduces me in the thing that's most important about me, which is true, that I'm a mother of 2 grown daughters, but I always get irritated because when we're in professional situations, I think they don't need to know that, but he's right that that's the most important thing.
But that's not, in addition to that important thing, she's doing many other important things in the world. Dr. Litwak is a PhD in leadership and, how do you say it? Leadership and
change. Or theater for social change.
Theater for social change. If you get a chance to read her thesis paper, which is all about how theater is used to transform communities, it's really very powerful document that should be read by everybody. So she's also an actress, a playwright, a director, a conduit of social change energy between communities. She does workshops all over the world, including in refugee camps in Palestine and Israel, and she's been, not refugee camps in Israel, but all over the world, and she's done this incredible work for many, many years. And recently, just to tie in with La Mama, her play, My Heart is in the East, was performed here at La Mama this past season, which I hope she'll tell you a little bit about, because it speaks right to this question of the relationship between an Arab man and a Jewish woman. So, what else?
Well, I'll talk about you, and then through that we'll figure out some other things. The only other piece I would say is that one of the things I've been doing around the world is building puppets with people, and I just came back from Palestine where I was doing puppet building with 2 theater companies there. And the play, My Heart is in the East, was in the other building in the annex in the big theater, but it workshopped here 2 years before, and I started working here in this space 1979 when I was just a mere child.
1980 for me.
1980 for David. And David also, one of the important things David does, I'll start with that in relation to La Mama, is he is the director and the coordinator for the La Mama Umbria program in Umbria, Italy, in Spoleto, near Spoleto. He started this with Ellen Stewart many years ago, 18 now? 18 years ago. He spearheads that, and what Ellen got a MacArthur grant and used the money to purchase a convent above the town of Spoleto, and David brings together every summer amazing artists from all over the world who teach directing and playwriting, and he then attracts students from all over the world who come to study there and do projects there. So that's a main role of his, and it wouldn't exist without him. He's kept it going. He's also been Ellen Stewart's face on committees for the International Theater Institute World Congress, where we've both been. And he also is a coach. He works beautifully, incredibly. I've been the recipient of his coaching, as have many artists in New York. He coaches, his company is called Directing Your Theater Career, so you really step into the role of director. He's also an educator and teaches at all kinds of universities all over the world, and has just recently gotten back from Russia, where he was there on a grant doing curating work and meeting other artists from all over the Eastern Bloc. So he and I have both traveled the world quite a bit, and we have worked together on our company Creative Arts Leadership, leading workshops, as we will today, in cultural diplomacy in action. So David is an amazing coach and teacher and activist, and he goes to sees more theater than anyone I know all over the world. So he's very well informed.
Well, we're both a part of this group that you've heard a little bit about called Theater Without Borders. And just to give you a little sense of what that is, Theater Without Borders is an informal, volunteer, virtual community that shares information and builds connections between individuals and institutions interested in international theater exchange. So Theater Without Borders has no infrastructure, really, no administration. There's no exchange of money. It's all volunteer back and forth between people. So there is a website that is maintained, and a place where people can connect to other people who want to have relationships with other theater artists around the world. So if you're going to visit some country and you don't know any theater artists there, Theater Without Borders will help you connect to people in these different places. So you can maybe find somebody who can, orient you to a new community, can introduce you to people, can share their theater knowledge of that place with you, so that you enter into a new place with a certain kind of familiarity and don't just go in as the new person, not knowing anything.
Yeah, we're based on generosity of hosting, so we really advocate people connecting with each other. And that's one of the reasons I've asked you to put your cell phones away, to experience the kind of person-to-person connection that people have. But before I do that, I should check and make sure that English and the speed with which we're speaking is okay for everybody. Is everyone okay with my fast talking and David's? Okay. All right. Okay.
They're prepared.
Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure that we're communicating clearly, because Theater Without Borders is about really connecting with people, as David said, but on people's terms, not coming in as Westerners to all the different places we go and thinking we know more than anyone else. So.
Which is why I think it would be a really good time for us to get to know you guys a little bit. If you could just at least tell us your name, where you're from, and what your key focus is regarding cultural diplomacy, that would really be helpful to
Okay,
us.
and let's do it kind of quickly, since we want to actually get into action with you today. So who wants to start?
Yeah, I just want to.
Ladies first, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Marianne Chalini. I live in Quebec, Montreal, but I'm originally from Cameroon. So what I really want, or what I'm aspiring for with cultural diplomacy, is more of the role of women, how to implicate them in politics and see how we can change the world.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Okay. My name is Dr. Sabir Michael. I come from Pakistan,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a great association with the Theatre for Development and Theatre for Social Change. In 1995, my NGO in Pakistan formed a theatre group, and since we are working in communities to raise awareness about the social issues, to unite the people on political issues and other so many things, we are. I'm at least giving my input as a musician and singer in 2 theatre groups in Pakistan, and we are using it for the promotion and protection of human rights in the country, and so as we are using it for the interfaith harmony.
Beautiful.
So for me, it's not at all a new thing, and we have been heavily engaged, and we have worked for United Nations, we have worked for USAID, Recently, I have completed my project with USAID as their alumnus. We had prepared a play on the disability rights in connection with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, and we presented it all across Pakistan with their support.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I start from Nigeria, lecturer in the University, I lecture sociology. At the end, using this opportunity to know more, being able to engage in the humanitarian entity.
And what's your name?
Esther?
Esther, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Anna Kish from Washington, D.C. I do campus and community engagement for the George Washington University Museum, including cultural collaborations with the embassy.
Fantastic.
Hi.
My name is Abayebo Stephen from Uganda, working as the managing director on one of the non-government organizations dealing with some culture activities in our areas.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hi.
Hello everyone, my name is Shota. I come from Republic of Georgia. I'm working in Georgia, both office public relation. When I try to take this conference, for me it's a new message about my life, because this conference give me more relationship about different people, different things, and we try to learn how to get this conference in the future. And I totally sense because I am very happy to be here.
Well, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth. I'm from Georgia too. We're together, and I'm studying at Faculty of Psychology, and also I'm a volunteer in Georgia Red Cross Society. And this issue, which is discussed in this conference, is related in my interest and in my profession. Also, I'm interested in human rights and its problem in our country. So.
Human rights.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Mariam. I am Republic of Georgia and I live in Canada. I finished economic faculty in Philadelphia, State faculty. And I have many interests. This conference, many recommendations, many other new symposium and interesting international politics and economic information.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
My name is Mr. Okay. I come from Congo.
From where?
Congo.
Congo.
Democratic.
Yeah.
I'm 18. So from Spain to study diplomatic with UAE and all different opportunities. You need diplomatic in all the international.
Thank you.
Veronica Sobotka. I'm of Spanish nationality with Jewish roots and French roots and plenty of different roots. So I define myself very much as a global citizen. I currently work for the European Union. I'm based in Brussels. I have, in this context, developed an expertise in peace building, conflict prevention, conflict management, etc. And last year I had the kind of revelation, and I decided to start an NGO, an international NGO, called United Voices for Peace. I launched it yesterday, and it aims at promoting the culture of peace through music and the arts. So I'm very much interested to listen to what you have to tell us, how you contribute to this, and see, I'm looking forward for possible collaborations. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Senya. I'm Australian, but I live in New York. I'm very embedded in this area. I came to New York as the culture attaché with the Australian consulate, but my emerging artistic self actually had a moment at La Mama in Melbourne
Yeah.
So I feel connected to this building. I've created projects, cross-cultural projects across Asia, in China, in Singapore, in Korea, working with Korean pansori singers and Chinese-speaking opera singers. I'm curating a project for the Origins Festival at National Sawdust, which looks at highlighting women from different continents. And I write about it, and I'm presently I think they call it a Cultural Global Fellow at the University of Edinburgh as part of their, and we've just been to the Edinburgh Festival, and we looked at all the projects that were happening there, and that is in the Department of Institute of Cultural Relations. So this is my world.
Great.
So I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation to share. And it was really great to hear from all our participants.
Yeah.
And have a bit of insight.
My name is Amanda Shatsko. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and currently right now I'm doing a Master of Arts in International and Intercultural Communications. I'm a director for the BC Alliance for Arts and Culture, and so my primary aspect that I'd like to know this weekend, during this week and everything, is how arts is used for cultural diplomacy.
Great.
You know the other David Daimond, I imagine, right? Another David Daimond Theater for Living in Vancouver. Yeah. So I was just thinking that, I'm sorry, we know people from all the different countries.
Yeah.
Sure. My name is Mark from Amherst, Massachusetts, and my passion is bringing people together who normally wouldn't come together.
Oh, I had no idea you're from Amherst, Massachusetts. So yes, we have friends in Cameroon, friends in Pakistan, friends in Uganda, friends in Georgia, Congo, and Spain, and I will be in Brussels in a couple weeks for a conference and to do a theater project. So I do have to leave for a rehearsal, so before we finish, I'll give out my website and email information, because part of what we do at Theater Without Borders is try to stay connected to the people. David and I are probably the most active Theater Without Borders members in terms of spreading the word. We've been to France, to Poland, I was just in Segovia, Spain, and all over the place representing Theater Without Borders to the world, so that we can collect friends, basically, and connect our friends to each other. So it's a really transparent and generous practice, and through that we have developed friends in many, when I say friends, I mean working theater colleagues, and what Roberta Levitow, the founder of Theater Without Borders, calls thoughtful practitioners. And thoughtful practitioners are people who do this work with this kind of care that you're all speaking about. Do you all know where the restroom is? If everybody know?
It's just outside the door to the right.
Yeah,
Right.
Everybody knows. You probably already announced that.
No, but it's
okay.
Good to mention.
Yeah, it's right to the right. Yeah, fire exits there and right. So great, that's wonderful to hear
So
from
really
all
good
of
to
you.
meet everybody and know a little bit about who we're talking to. Part of what we do at Theater Without Borders, as Jessica was saying, is connecting people and then sharing different best practices that we've developed over the years to help people both communicate more effectively with each other, learn from each other, and share new ideas, new ways of approaching endemic or intrinsic problems that different communities face. Not that, like she said, not that we have the answers, but that we can help through theater and the arts develop mechanisms to where people can explore the questions that are difficult things happening in their particular society. And theater has this amazing way of, when you tell stories about what happens in real people's lives, all of a sudden it becomes more alive, and you can connect to the stories as opposed to just, sort of speeches, nothing against speeches, but just random speeches, but to hear people's actual stories and then to embody them in a theatrical context is what really allows for this kind of connection and empathy, which is required for deeper communication, I believe. Yeah. Especially when you have different cultures in the same room.
very often here at La Mama, we are speaking, if we have an audience, they're people from the neighborhood or people from the same political views that we have. Excuse me. And one of the things that we are really working towards is building bridges. So I'm performing on Tuesday night with a piece about Israel and Palestine, about the paradox there. And we're going to be showing a film by a Palestinian woman who's going to be Skyping in. So the conversation will be between us and between people in the room with differing views. That's one conversation where you're always going to get conflict. But in a theatrical situation, we create safe space to do that. As David said, my play, My Heart is in the East, is really about my time in Iraq. And then it's also about a time 2,000 years ago in medieval Spain, in Cordoba, when poetic exchange between Jews and Muslims and Christians created an amazing period of coexistence, the Golden Age, which I'm sure you know about, yes. So that play was really about that, but every single performance engaged the audience in a poetry contest and a discussion afterwards. So the audience wasn't put to watch, but was put in a circumstance of engagement, which is what we're going to try to do today a little bit with you.
So should we just jump in?
Yeah.
Little warm up?
Sure.
Okay, is everybody ready to be warmed up? In theater practice, we like to warm up our bodies and warm up our minds. We're not going to ask you to do anything terribly physical today. Just, you have to know your audience, I guess, and we're just meeting you for the first time. But this is an exercise that maybe we'll just warm up our minds a little bit as the morning progresses. And it comes from Theater of the Oppressed, which is a form of theater created by a Brazilian director, Augusto Boal, if you've heard of him. And it was based on his conversations with the author of Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He developed a theater practice as a way of helping communities deal with problems of oppression. And so one of the things that he says is really important to do is to get out of your kind of mode of thinking that's just, the way we're set in stone, the way we like to think about things, but to actually open ourselves up to new ways of thinking. So this is just a really simple exercise, and we'll just give it a shot. Okay, so it's really simple. I'm going to say black, and when I say black, you say white. If I say white, you say black. Okay, as a group. Ready? Black.
White.
White.
Black.
Black, black, white.
White, white, black.
Black, white, black.
Black, white,
Let's try that again. Black, white, black.
white, black, white.
When I say up, you say down. When I say down, you say up. Give it a try. Down.
Up.
Up, up.
Down, down.
Down, up. Down, up, down.
Up, down, up.
Down, up, up. Down, up, black. Up, down, white. Let's try up, down, up.
The opposite.
Up, down, up would be? Down, up, down, right. Down, down, up. Up, 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 down. Up, black, down, white.
I noticed the English speakers having the most trouble with this. It's very interesting.
At the unit at 8, at 7:30, so we've been up since 5.
Yeah, oh gosh. Okay, we'll try one more. Yeah, let's try one more. I say old, you say new. Old.
New.
New.
Old.
New, new, old.
Old, new.
Old, new, old.
New, old.
New, old, black.
Old, new, white.
Good. Up, down, new. Okay, very good. So, why do you think this exercise is valuable? What is it about this exercise?
You have to listen.
You have to listen.
Yeah.
And listen because you have memory.
Yeah, I'm going to take it one step further. Is that okay? And this
Sure.
will make people, it'll give you an opportunity to say goodbye to that device. It's my pet peeve are devices. Because I lived for so long with teenage girls, and still my daughters, when they're talking to me, are like, yeah, Mom, it's like, so I have something important to tell you. I know, yeah, oh, wow, that's terrible. So it's, and I do it too, so I'm just telling you, I'm just sharing without you. Okay, so can you say these three words, zip, zap, zop?
Zip, zap, zop.
Zip, zap, zop.
Zip, zap,
So
zop.
if I say zip, you're gonna say, give zap to someone else. So zip, and then you give it to someone else, zop. Okay? So really, and you're just, and if we, this will just take David's exercise one step further because you have to use your hands. Okay? And that way we get our bodies warmed up too. So zip. Zip, go back to zip. Okay, good. Zop. So it goes zip, zap, zop. It's fine. It's fine. Let's try. Start again. Zip. Somebody start with zip and give it to someone.
Zip.
And then zop. Zop. Good. All right, good. Now, let's try something because I think that still it's not that those words mean nothing, but still they're coming from our culture. Do you have does somebody have a word in your language with 3 syllables? Boom, boom, boom. 3 syllables. Any word. It can mean it can be Spanish. It can be anything. Yes, you have one in Georgian. Yeah, it could mean anything, as long as it's not insulting. Or do you have one? Or if somebody speaks a different language, just so that we're not based always in English.
Do they have to alliterate?
No, it's just so that we can do zip, zap, zop with someone else's word from a different culture. Anybody have a culture? German? What? Bach, buch, bach. Okay, tell us what we're saying, just so we know. What does this mean?
It's nothing.
It's like zip, zap, zap.
Buch, bach, bach.
Yeah, Bach, Buch, Bach.
Bach, buch, bach.
It's zip.
When you drop something. Okay, great. Bach, okay. So, Bach, buch, bach.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so you start it.
Bach. Next, Buch.
Buch. So say buch to someone.
Buch.
Bach.
Great.
Bach.
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 Buch. Bach.
Okay. I think you're warmed up now. It's about getting your minds out of yourself and into something else. And so what often since we use English, sometimes it's good to use another language as well. But I'm going to go back to English now.
Okay.
Since David warmed us up with thinking. And I'm aware that 3 members are now out of the room. So theater is very interesting. Theater is something where it's harder to walk in and out because it's so dependent on your participation. In a way that makes it really hard, in a way that makes it really wonderful because I can give a lecture and you guys can come in and out and I won't know who's here and who's not. But when we do something together with theater, each of you are so vital to me that if you go away, I miss you. And that's one of the reasons I think theater is such a fantastic community builder, because really we need each other in the theater, and we can't exist without each other. So, so one of the projects that I've been doing, and I'm going to talk just for a couple moments and hoping that everybody who is gone comes back before we actually begin, called the Fear Project. And David has used this in Italy this summer, and I have done it in India, in in the United States, both in New York and Milwaukee, and also in the Czech Republic. And in the Czech Republic, there was a whole State Department grant around this, and we went out and did this in 7 different cities in the Czech Republic. So there's a series of questions. We ask the questions. Then I take all the answers, turn them into a choral poem, but with verbatim answers, just like people have answered back. Then together, the actors read them, and then we form a play based on those answers. And then we go into communities and ask the audience the same questions, do the performance, and then at certain points in the performance, bring out the papers that have the audience's answers on them. So the audience is very aware, because their answers are on yellow paper, that when the yellow paper comes out, their text is on stage. And then we end the play, like much of the work that I do, with a conversation. Not with a bow, but with a conversation, so that we hand it back to the audience. Does that make sense in terms of a process? It's kind of, it's the work that I do with my company, the Heat Collective, and also with Artists Rise Up New York. It's this work about always, every project engages the audience. Every project, it's art for service, so art that is for the community good. So would you be willing to participate with these questions? They're all about fear. There are 13 questions that I have really worked on research, which are the right questions, and these questions are the ones that I've ended up with. And
Do you want to do it in groups or as a total group together?
well, it's such a
we talked
small
about both.
group. It's such a small group. If you're willing to share with the whole group, and you guys, we've just developed a kind of nice feeling. What I'd like to do, if we could, because I'm still having trouble seeing people, could we pull the chairs in just a little bit more? And then I'll tell you how, thank you so much, that's wonderful. Oh, I hope I'm not messing it up for the camera. And then we'll talk a little bit about how this ended up in the various places. It's been done now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 12 different places. So we can talk about how the performances ended up. Huh?
I was just asking them to move a little closer.
Okay, thank you, you guys are great. Yeah, there is a gap. Well, we have a couple people who may come back.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so is that, let's try, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Well, we could do it in dyads, but I think that if, I'm going to do something a little bit harder and see if you, and we should have a scribe, but we won't. So we'll just remember. We'll just try to remember. We'll just try to remember.
Or should we jot them down, you think?
We'll try to remember.
Okay.
Let's all try to remember. We're going to make a play in the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. I'm going to try something. This may seem hard, but I don't want you to sit and listen to people and know when it's getting to you. I want to have an element of surprise. Let's see. Are you coming? Are you waiting? Or are you coming back? Are you with us? Okay. So let's make room for her. And
our other friend, is he going to be able to come back?
No, I'm sorry. He had someone to pick him up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Well, thank you for being here. So what we're about to do is I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to point to one of you and say the first thing that comes to your mind. Now, that's going to be hard for the people I don't point to till later, but really try it. Keep your mind blank and don't answer the question till it gets to you. Okay? And is my phone here? Maybe I will. Only for, I'm just going to try, no, I know them by heart. I just was thinking maybe we could write down.
Do you want me to ask some? Or
No, it's okay. I'm just going to see if I can write down some of the ones before my brain goes. Put that thing away. I'm taking notes. My Georgian friend, my dear friend, are you like a doctor? Are you a doctor on call?
No.
Okay, then put that away. I want you to be with me. I'm just taking notes with mine. I'm not looking at my text. I promise you. You promise? But you can't leave it. Can't go off the lap. Do you know, I think there should be a 12-step program for this. I am addicted to my phone. I know, I'm teasing you, but it's with, I have it so much with all my students. Not that you're my students, but you know, how do you make this work? Oh, it's working. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? Big breath in. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? First thing that comes to you.
Danger.
Danger, okay. Be as specific or not as you want. What are you afraid of?
Attack.
Attack. Okay, what are you afraid of?
Like on you, something I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What, something
you don't know, the unknown.
Unknown, the unknown. Yeah.
The unknown, okay. What are you afraid of?
Losing.
Losing, beautiful. What are you afraid of?
Sabotage.
Sabotage. What are you afraid of? Hmm? Say again?
Tu veux dire quoi?
Tu veux que je traduise? On peut traduire ça. C'est de quoi est-ce que tu as peur?
To die. Okay, thank you so much. What are you afraid of?
Falling from the sky.
Great. What are you afraid of? Try to listen.
I am afraid. War of the world.
Wars of the world. War of the world. World War. World War. Great. What are you afraid of, Mark?
Heat.
Hate. Okay. Who have I not? What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid to lose my love of people.
Towards people?
Love of people. My relatives.
Love of people.
relatives.
Okay. Relatives. Okay. What are you afraid of? Nothing. Okay. No. What are you afraid of?
Danger.
Danger. Have I asked everyone? Did I? Sorry. What are you afraid of? Attack. Yeah, I've asked
Yeah,
you.
she said it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've asked you. I've asked everyone.
Yes, no?
Yeah.
Madness.
You're my fault.
Ready? Again, big breath in. What are you afraid of?
I just blanked. I'm afraid of I don't know, my own lack of comprehension.
So his own lack of understanding. Yeah. Good, thank you. Okay, so then I'm going to keep changing the questions, and I'm going to give you the 13 questions, but I may not go all the way around to everyone, okay?
Just because of time.
Yeah, just because of time. Ready for next one? Who are you afraid of? The first thing that comes to your mind. Who are you afraid of? Who? First thing. Who? It's okay. I'll come back to you. It's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I also don't want you to think a good answer. I want you to think the first answer. Who are you afraid of?
Nobody.
Nobody. Okay, great. Who are you afraid of?
My mother.
This is a very typical answer, believe me. Who are you afraid of?
My ego.
Great. Who are you afraid of?
Evil people.
Ev-
Evil people.
Evil people.
Evil people.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's okay. Who are you afraid of?
I'm afraid thinking.
Sorry?
God.
God. Okay. Who are you afraid of? It's a hard one. It's a hard one. Does anyone have one? I don't want to put you on the spot. Does anyone have one that pops into your mind? We have something
Your
we.
boss?
If it's true for you, yes, my boss is another one. No, but no, you're
It's not my case.
not in your case. No, I just mean for you, because it has to be very personal. I personally am afraid of the President of the United States. This is what my personal, so I mean, and this could be something, the first person I ever asked was my partner in this project in the Czech Republic, and I said, who are you afraid of? He said, my father and Vladimir Putin. And it was really clear, those two.
My really answer
Yeah.
is I'm afraid criminal people.
Criminal people, okay.
Evil.
Okay, good. Criminal people, good. What's true for you? So I'm going to switch the question now. Where, unless you have, do you have someone you wanted to say?
My president.
Okay,
I.
yes. Thank you. Where are you most afraid? Where are you most afraid? Where are you most afraid?
Where am I most afraid? In unfamiliar environments.
Unfamiliar environments. Good. I'm very afraid of heights. So I am most afraid high up. Okay. Heights, yeah?
Me too.
You too? Okay. Heights. Who else? Where are you most afraid?
Close, I'm claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic. Okay, closed space. Where are you most afraid?
Fun parks.
Fun parks. Oh, me too. Oh, yes, me too. Where are you most afraid?
Under the water.
Underwater. Yes, underwater. Where are you most afraid?
It's my imagination in my head, so the things I can come up with.
Ah, okay, good. Fantasy places. Yes. Okay. Where are you most afraid?
Where it's blind and cold.
Where it's dark and cold? Yes. Where are you most afraid? Where?
In the plane.
In the plane, yes. Okay, thank you. Airplane. Okay, good. Good. What is your reaction to fear? What happens when you get scared? To your body or to yourself? What happens? What's your reaction to fear?
Shake.
I shake. Good. What's your reaction to fear?
My mind skipped.
Your mind skips. That's very, very clear, yeah. What is your reaction to fear?
I react. I kind of act
I-
against it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I act against it.
Yeah.
What is your reaction to fear? What happens to you when you get scared?
I'm afraid of very much height,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, I cannot move.
Okay, good. That's good. I am paralyzed. Yeah, paralyzed. I can't move. Good. Where are you? What happens to you when you get scared? What happens to your body? Is that a clear question?
Really feeling like getting fever.
Get a fever. Okay. Yeah. That's a very. These are great answers. What happens to you?
I feel cold and I think under my feet it's not the land.
Great. I feel cold and I feel that under my feet is not the land. Does anyone else have one they want to share that I haven't called on about what happens to your body when you're most afraid?
Did you have one? No.
And anyone else here?
My mind freezes.
Mind freezes. Good. Wonderful. So no, it's great. I mean, what we're doing is we're asking questions in English and in negotiating, I think, with each other how much to help and how much to give space, because these are intense questions and sometimes they're hard to answer. When we do this in the FEAR project, it's one-on-one asking questions, so it's not in a group. It's just one person asking one person. But because of time, we're doing it this way. Finally, how do you conquer? Do you understand the word conquer? Overcome fear. How do you overcome fear? How do you overcome fear? Let's just go around this time since.
Courage.
With courage? Okay, great. How do you overcome fear?
Acknowledge it.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
I try to control it.
Control it. Okay.
Comment tu vaincres la peur? Quand tu as peur dans l'avion.
He stays quiet. He
Stays-
tries, yeah.
Merci.
I'm control my emotion.
Thank you.
I start acting to resolve problems. I start acting to resolve problems.
Great.
That's to resolve problems.
Mhm.
Yeah.
First, I seek. I try to seek. I try to seek how to destroy my afraid.
Thank you.
Camouflage.
Sorry.
I do accept it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank
And then
you.
you were gonna.
And then is there something else? You do accept it and then,
I say I become cool, and then I accept it.
Ah.
cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Hug my child.
Hug
my child.
It's great.
Great.
Try to face the situation.
Face the situation.
Perfect.
Well, first of all, I try to make as if the situation is inexistent, and I pray and I worship.
Pray and worship.
Yeah, pray. My faith
Yeah.
in God. I know I overcome everything with that, and it always works.
Beautiful.
I'm trying to act normal in order to bring normality, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No silence is another thing that maybe you can have to be afraid. Silence. Sometimes I like silence to be relaxed, but sometimes I don't like silence at all.
Okay, great.
So we're at 15
All right,
minutes.
so here
Do
we
you
go.
want to-
We're going to read this.
Okay.
So first of all, we're going to read this out loud to see how universal these fears are, because in so many places, our fears of our human fears are the same. So these are the first 5 questions, and then I'll tell you the last questions. We won't go through them necessarily, but I'll just, so in the fear project, we start with questions about fear. So I'm going to just read these to you. I'm afraid of danger. I'm afraid of attack. I'm afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of sabotage. I'm afraid to die. I'm afraid of falling from the sky. I'm afraid of world war. I'm afraid of madness. I'm afraid of my relatives. I'm afraid of nothing. I'm afraid of my own lack of understanding. I'm afraid of danger. Who are you afraid of? Nobody. My mother, my ego. I'm afraid of evil people. I'm afraid of God. I'm afraid of criminal people. I'm afraid of my president. Where are you most afraid? Where it's unfamiliar? I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of closed spaces, fun parks, underwater, fantasy places. I'm afraid where it's dark and cold. I'm afraid in airplanes. What happens to you when you're afraid? I shake. My mind skips. I act against it. I am paralyzed. I can't move. I get a fever. I feel cold and feel that under my feet there's no land. My mind freezes. How do you conquer fear? With courage. I acknowledge it. I control it. I stay quiet. I control my emotion. I act to resolve it. First, I try to think about how I am afraid. I do accept it. I hug my child. I face the situation. I pray. I try to act normally. So already we have a poem that you made. So in this now, then listen to the next questions, and I'm just going to ask them. What is the enemy?
Enemy?
The enemy. Do you understand the word enemy? Yeah. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the enemy? Where is the enemy? How do you react to hate? How do you conquer hate? What is home? Who is the stranger? How do you feel about your country right now? And these are the 13 questions. And we ask them in the same way, people being very honest. Then we make a poem and you all read it. And then we come up with a story based on that poem. And and the performance is a combination of that story and the poem itself, and the audience's response to those same questions. So if we did it, we would all read the poem together. Then then if we were performing it, we would ask the audience the same questions, and each of you would go out and interview one person in the audience, get the answers, and then incorporate those answers into our play. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about what the stories were, and then we'll take some time just to talk about what the stories could be.
And the one thing that I would love for you guys to hear about is the way this played out in these different parts of the world.
That's what I'm going to tell you about right now. In India, there were three actors, but many interviews. We collected interviews in West Bengal from about 40 to 50 people, and I did the same thing. We made a poem of it. The story ended up, because of the answers, the people in West Bengal were most afraid of the economy changing and of violence to women. And these were the two major issues. So we came up with scenes on a train where a woman is abused and threatened. These scenes that were very real, that came out in the interviews, and then things the actors had experienced. But the major arc of the play was about the son. It was a mother, a father, and a son. We made, because it just happened to be two older actors and a younger actor. And the son is moving away. So each time we had a scene. So the way that it worked was this. We asked, the actors came out and they read the first set of questions, the poem, "What are you afraid of?" Then we have a scene where the boy is 7 years old. Then the next set of questions. Then the scene, the boy is a teenager, is already moving away, and the parents are trying to restrict his cultural experience. Then he gets older and older, and finally in the final scene, the son lives in the United States and has a 7-year-old child of his own. And so you see the arc of this boy leaving home and going with the parents' worst fears, going to the West. And now they don't, but through all of that, he's now trying to teach his son the things his parents taught him. So that's the story that we came up with in India based on the fear questions. In the Czech Republic, it was very different. They really wanted to talk about the refugee status and the Roma, the gypsies that live in the Czech Republic, and the fact that in a family, generations tend to have very different political views, the grandparents and the grandchildren. So in this family, there was a very racist grandmother and a very militant granddaughter, and then parents and a brother in between those two extreme views. Actually, the brother joined a white supremacy group in the Czech Republic. So we were able to have all these political arguments at the dinner table, but then each of the family members came out and did a monologue to the audience about what they felt. Then I was in that one, and I played a gypsy woman who is selling nuts in hijab, is selling nuts outside of the theater, a refugee woman. And then I was incorporated into the action of the play, but the audience didn't know that I was an actor at the beginning. They thought I was just selling nuts, and sometimes I would get spit at, and sometimes I was offered a room to stay in. It was very different. But then the audience, again, we talked to the audience. In the United States, one of the plays, this is the last one I'll tell you about, and then I'll let you speak. But in the United States, we did it just after the election, and so there were 3 siblings, adult siblings, a brother and 2 sisters with varied political views. And the father had just died, so his coffin was lying there in the front. And so each of them had a monologue to the coffin, but it was the 3 siblings, and then one of the siblings was lesbian, and her wife, and one of them was married to an immigrant, and her husband, who was an immigrant. And so and then the son, who had voted for President Trump and was very patriotic, and so was the dead father. And so they are arguing together, and then they each make a speech to the coffin during the play. But again, it's interrupted by the actors speaking all these questions in that poetic form, just like I did. I didn't change any of your answers. I just read them in that way. So those are there's some of the different ways the Fear Project has been created in the past and performed. I've told you about how it's performed we incorporate the audience answers. David was in one of the audiences that we did here in New York, and can talk to you about that experience. But one of my dreams is to eventually have an international group of people, so that we are actually getting answers from all over the place and make a performance and a play that involves differing experiences and views. And so that's part of what I'm working towards. And but the creation of the play is very, very collaborative. So what happens now is that after we read the questions, you would say, I've got an idea. This is how I react to those questions. This is how I feel about those questions. And we together create a play that we then perform. Okay, so I know we're a little bit, we're fine, but
7 minutes.
yeah, well, I don't think it has to be exactly. He's not even in the room, so we just have another presentation. We have to finish up by 1. Yeah, but we'll finish up in plenty of time. But I just want to now open it up to you to get your response to what that little experience was like. Anybody have?
One reaction, but it is not exactly about
Okay.
what happened here. But I wanted to know if you've been thinking, what happens if, for instance, in these kind of cases, someone really doesn't speak the language? So how can you overcome the difference?
Oh, I always have translators. I always work with translators. Wherever I am, I've worked with translators. So it's never a question of. I would never enter the Fear Project without translation.
But you know something about translation that I noticed when I was working with the Sundance Institute project in Africa, in Ethiopia. We had 7 different languages around this table of theater artists who were learning about directing, and it was remarkable how seamlessly they translated for each other. They would sit next to somebody. Those people only spoke Kiswahili, those people spoke French, those people spoke Amharic, and they would just translate for each other during the course of the workshop. And it was amazing how everybody understood everything.
Great, so that's wonderful, and I think there's always a chance to translate. But before we go off into asking us questions about the work that we do or moving out, let's stay with the Fear Project for a moment. Can you first of all see where this project could be valuable to a community? It's been very very valuable to both to the audiences the people that are interviewed and also the performers in the creation of it. Can you see how this can be a useful process?
Articulating the hidden and
Yes.
the unspoken.
Yes.
And fear is the main driver that stops all of us in excelling.
Yes.
And in anything that we do. So if you examine it, you probably have from a psychological point of view that fear is one of those things. And I've been thinking a lot about it in terms of my career and what has been the main growth, as in the lever and fear. And if I look at all the junctions, what has stopped me from progressing is fear. Fear of greatness, or fear of failure, or fear of something, or fear of whatever that is.
Right.
So whatever people cannot articulate that allows them stems from a personal point of view to go into the greater things. And the more you delve into it, you probably are finding the different gradients of fear and the local and the personal and also the greatest society.
Right. And that's beautiful. I mean, this is exactly the kind of conversation that we try to engage in, is what people are afraid of themselves. And then also, yes, the large things that people are afraid of, whereas you can find that in a very split community, some people are afraid of terrorists and the others are afraid of fascists, but both of those types of people can be afraid of spiders, the dark, heights, mothers, all these things that link us as humans. But you're right, to talk about it is really important. And I first started this project, we were looking at the refugee issue in the Czech Republic, and I couldn't figure out why there was so much hatred of refugees. And the Czech Republic is a country that basically doesn't have any refugees. One person said to me, well, he spoke, English wasn't his first language, but I love the way he said this. He said, in the basement of the house of hate, you will find the fear.
Yeah.
In the basement of the house of hate, you will find the fear. So then that's what the Fear Project was born from. Any other reactions or thoughts about this before we wrap up?
Do you think of how you might be able to use something like this in your own community?
Yeah.
So in Washington, I live right next door to Arena Stage, which is a theater, and it's a gentrified neighborhood. So for those who aren't native English speakers, so it means that it was originally a very poor community, and the development has changed so that it's now very socio-economically mixed. So you have housing projects here next to $1 million condos, and so as a community, our neighborhood is starting to talk about how Arena and other partners in the community can help bring kind of, it's a lot about racial issues, but even more than that, because it's very multicultural as these more affluent families are moving in. But it's a hard task to deal with how to do that. But I think something like this, where you're talking about finding differences and commonalities, stemming from the same questions, is something that's very tangible and approachable.
Yeah, it's very simple and very just down to earth, but you can tell where just a list of people's answers becomes a theatrical, potentially very poetic and theatrical piece, and that's where the Arena should be helping. And I think it's the job of the creative organizations to support community engagement and to speak to each other very simply at first, and then perhaps elevate it to art or not. But whatever gets us talking is so important, I think. That's a beautiful
example. And I've lived
example.
there for a dozen years, and when I first moved there, there were no children, and there are now. So actually, my child just started at the school, and there's this influx of families
Great.
there, and so I think it's an opportunity to start this cross-cultural learning. at this,
Absolutely.
We talked about high school yesterday, but I think even earlier.
Oh yeah, right. Very much earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if your visit to Brussels is connected to this somehow, to the FEAR project or not, but I do see an added value in Brussels because it is, of course, the basis of the European Union, I mean, the headquarters of the European Union, to develop something like this precisely when addressing the problem of integrating the migrants. I think the way the EU has dealt with this is based on fear of the other, and fear, because whatever we can think, and I refer to my community is this, my community is a community made of people from 28 different countries, where we have a sense of diversity. So we are diverse in the sense that everybody comes from a different country and 28 countries, but still there is a fear for racial diversity.
Yeah.
I think we're not used to have people from other racial origins. So, and this is why I think Europe reacted so brutally against the migrants coming to Europe.
Yeah.
So I see, I don't know if it's related or not, but I understand what you're saying about the Czech Republic people were afraid of migrants and people coming, because unfortunately still I think Europe is lagging behind in accepting the racial diversity. So this would be my
Well,
personal thoughts.
I think actually Europe, I mean, in my perspective in the field of, I didn't talk about this much, but the field of arts, rights, justice, which is one of my strong interests with Theater Without Borders and working with, artists' rights. I think Europe is far ahead of the United States in that arena. So I think it's true that but we have a lot of work to do. And I'm there in Brussels at the International Leadership Association conference, which will have a whole arts and leadership component. And and this is and if I could find the funding, I would do this in every city, everywhere, because I think it's a wonderful way of introducing very gently a very deep and scary but beautiful sharing.
Did you guys, anybody else have something they wanted to?
It's important as an energy evoking agent. So once you enact an energy and you illuminate it, then it becomes something that your reach is unknowable and ineffable.
That's right.
So that is you only have to strike the match, and however people can articulate it, and that's why theatre and the visual arts and music, they're able to articulate things. That's why we have love songs as opposed to saying I love you. That's why we have harmony in music as opposed to saying there is harmony, because it's the felt experience. And once we have the felt experience, doesn't provide the answers, it doesn't provide the advocacy, it doesn't provide the answer to the global problems, but it is that energy evoking flame.
That's great. No, that makes so much sense. Yes, and theater is energy. I wonder if just as we're leaving, and I know we have to stop, there's another presentation coming, could we go around just so that everyone feels heard and has entered into the conversation, and just say maybe one word or one thing you can take from this session today? Is that possible? Just so that you're taking something and also making sure that your voice is added to the mix, since we haven't had time to hear from everyone. Is that possible?
Just, one word. Yeah.
One word or one?
I think I come from the arts background in regards to participatory approaches of getting community involved, so I found this is another valuable tool. Getting information and getting community to be involved in a very vulnerable way, especially when we have people here. So thank you very much.
So vulnerability, that's a great thing. Can we?
Restorative and pleased, because as a group we haven't introduced each other, we haven't had a social interaction.
Great.
And key to cultural diplomacy is hospitality.
Right.
And hospitality is opening a door, and for the first time over 3 days, felt that the doors are being opened between us as a group.
So community building.
Yeah. One word.
Process. If I have to choose one word, is the process. I must say that personally, I okay, theater is one way, but I like the process. I like the way you talk.
Process. Information. Thank you. Beautiful.
I think for me it is very interesting. Many new words, etc.
Thank you.
I like the situation and listening to you. It was to me a very big experience, and I like the conversation with other people. Thank you.
Conversation. Good.
Sorry, could you please?
Ask you just something you will take from this little 1 hour that you've spent with us. One thing you will take with you.
Okay.
Like,
So I apologize because my English is not so good, but
Perfect.
I feel emotion, but I like experience about new people. I think this time when we are together, it's interesting because if anything else not for me interesting, I don't like it. When someone conference with people, anything is interesting, it's very good because this time it's not spent. Okay, when time is spent interesting, it's very good.
Okay.
And we are here, people, interesting people. We make our jobs, our working, speak about any problems, any things. We had spoke, afraid, enemies, and I listen to people. I like this because when I like people and listen to anyone mind.
That's
For me,
great.
I learn also I interesting.
That's
Thank you
great.
so much.
So
All the same.
community building more. Yeah. Great. That's one thing.
I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful for these things because I've just interacted with some of the people. I've brought some ideas. I have brought different thinking of cultural grounds. So I'm really very thankful for the cultural diplomacy, and I really thank Mr. Mark for the great work. Thank you.
Beautiful.
My word is opportunity. So as I was giving my answers, I felt myself wanting to give context for my answers, and as I was listening to others, wanting to know the context for theirs. So I think it's an opportunity to continue the
Absolutely.
engagement.
Yeah, just the beginning.
yeah.
One word, true. I would like to say it's good to be bold, creative, and accommodating.
Gorgeous.
Okay, I want to talk about the uniqueness of the way you proceed to get information and the interaction. And the beauty about all this is the way you use this. We are all different. You ask one question, we give different answers, maybe because of our different experiences and everything. And I think it's a beautiful way of bringing out the aspect of cultural diplomacy. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just wanted to just add that I appreciate everybody's participation in this process. I think, it takes a little bit of courage just to even answer the questions aloud in front of a group of people that you don't know very well. But I also think that this is like one aspect of way that theater and art is used in cultural diplomacy, and it's one of many that both of us, we use others as well. And so in a longer period of time, we might be able to explore a lot of different ways in which theater and art and culture are used to get at this very same idea of how different communities can talk to each other, can communicate with each other, can listen. What I love about this exercise is it involved all of us listening closely, and I saw everybody come together to really listen to each other. To me, that's the first step in any kind of cultural exchange. is to actually listen and hear the other person. So I really appreciate everybody's participation.
And just to finish with something you just said, it's the idea of the one, the many, and the one. So one question, many answers, and then one poem that includes all the answers, the one, the many, and the one. So thank you
Thanks,
so
Mark, and
much, and thank
thanks-
you, Mark, for inviting us. And thank you,